Hi everybody, I'm Lauren, and today I'm going to be doing a weekly wrap-up slash reading rush TBR. Last week I didn't finish any books, but that was because I was reading a really chunky chunker boy, and that is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I'm about halfway through. I'm on page 617 of 1080 or whatever. So I made a good progress this week, but yeah, it's kind of hard to finish this kind of huge chunky chunk book in a week. And I did read a few other things the last week, but they were both DNFs, so this was the only thing I made significant progress in last week. But so far, it's been really, really good. It's been a lot better than Way of Kings. Way of Kings, I probably would have only just started enjoying it somewhat at the point I'm at. And this, I enjoyed it from the first chapter or two. A lot less politics stuff. Shallan is featured in here a lot more, which is great. I think Adolin's a lot better in here because he spends a lot less time grumping about his dad. And there's just a lot of cool stuff that happens in here. Obviously, it'd be kind of spoilers to get into this because second book in a chunky chunk series. The only thing that I'm not a big fan of is Yasna's not a huge part of this book, or at least so far, because of story reasons. But I want more Yasna. I won't go into more than that. It's really good. And I'll probably try to finish it by the time next week wrap up, because I'm solely focusing on this right now. So I've been plowing through at least 200 pages a day. So I did DNF two things. One of them might have not been this week, and one of them was definitely this week. I kind of get a little confused sometimes when I don't write things down. But let's just talk about them both now anyway. The first one that I DNF'd was The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. This was one of the read-alongs, buddy reads on Murphy's Discord. I didn't really like it at all. I had previously read a book of the authors called Elsewhere, which is kind of a contemporary mixed with some fantasy, and I don't like contemporary that much. But when it was mixed with that fantasy type elements, in Elsewhere's case, it was the fact that the whole premise is the main character dying and going to Elsewhere, and everyone ages backwards, and that's a little different. In the case of A.J. Fickery, it's just contemporary, and with kids, this grouchy guy owns a bookstore, and he comes in one day and there's a kid just left there, and he's like, I'm just gonna take care of this kid. And there's a big sob story about him losing his wife, and ever since then he's been grouchy or whatever, and I don't really like contemporary that much, and this is just contemporary. And then as well, I looked at some of the final thoughts of some of the other people doing the readathon buddy read. I won't spoil it, but there were some things that came up in the latter half of the book that I would have just been rolling my eyes at and not caring at all. So it's probably a good idea that I DNF'd it. I got about halfway through, so I think that's a decent shot, even though it's only 240 pages. The other one I DNF'd was Scythe by Neil Schusterman. This one did not get as far with, just because it wasn't really meshing with me. I think the best way to describe it maybe is that it felt really too typically YAE for me. The characters were pretty annoying. I don't know. It just felt like it could have focused more on the really interesting concept of how they do death, and the villains seem like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do bad things because we're bad, and it's just okay, this isn't working well for me. I get that it's popular, and if you are more If you are fine with a more YA reading style and stuff, then it probably works better for you. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with YA, but I think I like more older YA, like the Abhorsen series by Garth Nix. It's like from the 90s mostly, and that kind of style works a lot better for me. What else is YA? Like, I like the Lunar Chronicles series, and that YA doesn't annoy me as much. I don't know how else to describe it. Just something about Scythe and the characters and the way it's told just really was bothering me. So, yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Like, it's more of a me thing than me saying that the book's bad. So, yeah, didn't really work well for me. Since it's probably going to be extremely short, I wanted to, and I was also thinking about taking part in the reading rush this year. I am just going to talk about my TBR for the reading rush in this video as well. If you don't know, the reading rush, I think it used to be called the Booktube-a-thon. Oh, damn it, I forgot to write down who it's by. Okay, well, it doesn't say right on their page who the people are, but I'll link down in the description the link to the video about that, and the people who made it. But essentially, it's a week-long readathon. It takes place from July 20th to 26th, and there's just prompts, and you read them. The super ultra awesome goal is to read 7 books, one for each of the prompts, but, I mean, you don't have to. You can read as many as you want. You can read as many or as few as you want. I'm gonna see if I can read all 7 prompts with 7 books, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, I'm not putting Words of Radiance on there, and I'll probably finish this before then anyway. I have never participated in this before, so we'll see. Anyway, the prompts. So the first prompt is to read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. So I was born in January, my birthstone is garnet. And if you go with the default color, the gemstone is red. Although there are a good variety of colors, but I just thought I'd stick with the default red. Although the problem with that is I don't really have anything that's a manageable size that is also red. Even if you just say not manageable size red, I have like nothing that's red pretty much. So I'm just going with something that is somewhat red on the cover. And that is How Not to Write a Novel, 200 Classic Mistakes and How to Avoid Them, a Misstep by Misstep Guide by Howard Mittel-Mark and Sandra Newman. This is a reread for me. I haven't read this in a while, and it's just a really funny nonfiction with tips about writing. Not that I write, it's just I found it really funny. I borrowed it from the library one time, and I just had to buy a copy myself. But yeah, there's not really that much red on it, but like I said, there's really nothing I have that has red on it, except a few like really chunky books. So yeah. It has more red on the spine though, so yeah, it has red on it. The second prompt is to read a book that starts with the word the. For this one was a slightly easier one. For this one, I'm going to read The Irregular Magic High School, Volume 1 by Tsutomu Sato. I've already watched the anime adaptation of this light novel series, and I really like it a lot. It's this kind of action-packed, overpowered main character using his cool tech skills to do cool things, and there's a lot of behind-the-scenes evil people doing stuff. There's also brother-sisterly love stuff, but let's ignore that. I don't like that part of it. But I am curious on if the light novel holds up as well. I'm also reading this for my r/fantasy book bingo anyway, so yay! Finish those books off. The third prompt is to read a book that inspired a movie you've already seen. This took a little bit of time for me to think about because I don't have too many books that have movie adaptations because I read a lot of really long running series fantasy stuff. So I didn't really have much for this, but I did remember that Roald Dahl has a lot of movie adaptations, and I have seen a lot of them. So I decided to go with James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. I really liked the movie adaptation of this. They did it in a really interesting style, and I really liked the movie, so I'm curious to see how different the book version is. I really want to watch the movie version again, too, because that's definitely a nostalgic type of movie for me. I really like that one. Fourth prompt is to read the first book you touch. I just looked at my shelves and I'm like, which one doesn't go in any of the prompts that I want to read, and then I touch that one first. So yeah, it doesn't say randomly select one, so I just picked one, and I decided to go with Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones. I don't know what this is about at all. It's in the same series as Howl's Moving Castle, so yeah, I wanted to read this because I really liked Howl's Moving Castle. This is also for my r/fantasy book bingo too. So, yay. 2 birds with 1 stone is always good. For the 5th prompt, read a book completely outside of your house. So I probably have to read outside for this in the yard. But I just went with a very short thing, so if I had to read it outside, then I wouldn't be out there for long. And I decided to go with The Ancient Magus Bride, Volume 9 by Kore Yamazaki. This is like the last book in an arc, and I just hadn't gotten to it for a really long time, so it's kind of weird to me. But anyway, this is kind of complicated. But like this girl gets taken in by this demon-y type guy, and she's supposed to be his bride and whatever. It's kind of Beauty and the Beast-ish in that sense, but I really like it for its folklore type things. Like there's silkies and all these different creatures that don't appear often in fantasy stuff, and I really like it for that. And yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in here, and I really like this series, so I need to finish this arc already, so that's why I wanted to pick this one. Prompt number 6 is to read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. Basically, I could have gone with any genre other than fantasy, so I'm just going with one that I was on my, May TBR and haven't read anyway. That is Network Effect by Martha Wells. This is the newest book in the Murderbot series, and it's the only novel so far. The rest are novellas, and yeah, Murderbot is a great character. He just wants to go around watching his media, but he's normally supposed to be a big old murder machine, so he gets into a lot of complicated situations, and he's such a great character. He makes this whole series, and I've heard a lot of good things about this full-length novel, so I'm really excited to get to this one already. I think this is the chunkiest book on my Reading Rush TBR, but I think I'll breeze through it, probably. And by chunkiest, it's like 300 some pages, so I think I can blast through it. Murderbot's really good. And for the last prompt, number 7, read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. I don't have a lot of books in my TBR that are in super foreign continents, unfortunately, because I just assumed that fantasy wouldn't count with fake continents. So I'm in North America, so it just has to not be in North America. And I'm going with The Murder on the Links by Agatha Christie, the second book in the Poirot series. I really like the first book in the series, and I really like the TV series with David Suchet, I think his name is. This takes place in France, so that's in Europe, obviously. So yeah, this counts. Anyway, those are all the books that I have to talk about. We'll see how much I get read on the Reading Rush. If I don't read all of them, that's whatever, you know. Everything sucks right now, so I'm trying to, take care of myself as best as I can without pushing myself too hard. But I think it should be manageable. I purposely picked a lot of really short books. And the Reading Rush takes place in a nice enough spot where I should be finished with Words of Radiance anyway, so I don't think that will conflict with that. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you are taking place in the Reading Rush Challenge and what you plan to read for that. I'd like to know. And anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video. Bye! I think it might be the chunkiest book on my TBR for the Reading Rush. I think it's the chunky-ish. I think this is the chunky-ish book. Chunky-ish. chunkiest.